thank you so much for joining us today on the Clemson Tigers radio show. I am Zach, he is Jason, and you're watching episode 2. So, hope that you're having a great day and that you're excited for football like we are. However, Jason, there is something that caught my eye, and it is this guy named Spencer Strider. I mean, he is absolutely lighting up for the Braves.
Yeah, he's getting it done on the mound. He's like every pitcher. He has his bad days here and there, but the rate at which he is accumulating these strikeout numbers, man, it's just eye-popping.
It's historic.
And he's doing it, in the National League, in when there's no DH, he's not facing a pitcher 2-3 times a game, so that makes it even a little bit more impressive. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that Spencer Strider when he was at Clemson. He suffered from injury, had to have a Tommy John surgery, comes back, things get shut down due to COVID. So we never got to see that Spencer Strider, man. But you could he showed flashes of it in a little bit we did see of him at Clemson. Man, he is evolving into one of the best pitchers in baseball, and it's been fun to watch.
Yes, he is. As always, you can join the conversation. You can message us on Facebook, YouTube. You can even text your comments, questions, complaints. Let Jason know that he needs to change his hat. At 864-643-5336. Getting back to Strider, you have to wonder, though, is he the greatest pitcher to come out of Clemson? I mean, think back. I mean, excuse me, if you're thinking of, great Clemson Tiger pitchers, you're thinking Chris Vincent. I mean, is he the only other one that is even in this league?
Maybe, unless I'm just blanking on somebody off the top of my head. But when you start talking about Clemson pitchers and the better ones to come out of the program, Chris Benson's kind of the first guy that comes to mind. I do not consider myself the greatest of historians, though. So especially the older I get, my memory gets a little bit worse. But Benson is definitely the guy at the top of the list for me. And Strider is, he's absolutely making a name for himself. I'm trying to remember exactly what Benson did in the pros, but he had a long career in Major League Baseball. If I'm remembering that right, he was around for a long time. With the Pirates for a long time, if I'm remembering that right. Strider is quickly making an argument, to be considered maybe the best pitching prospect to come out of Clemson. And we're talking about a guy that was just left Clemson after the 2020 season. He rose all the way through the minor league ranks in one season. That's kind of something that's not heard. It's not unheard of, but it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah,
it's just been the trajectory of his career so far has just been impressive.
Yeah, and you have to remember that he started out his career with the Rays as a reliever. So just the fact that he made the move from reliever to starter and has arguably been one of the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball this season is something that is incredibly special to watch. And you have to wonder if he had returned to Clemson after that COVID year. You're looking at, I mean, arguably one of the most dominant pitching staffs in the country.
Yeah,
And so,
you're talking about a Friday night guy, if he
yeah,
comes back. But it's hard to argue against the choice he made. He obviously made the right decision. Jimmy Key's another guy that came through
yeah,
Clemson. He's I wouldn't say he's before my time, but I was a kid when he was when I was a young kid when he was at the height of his career. So I mean, those are the two guys that you're going to compare him to eventually: Chris Benson, Jimmy Key. When it's all said and done, though, it wouldn't shock me if we're talking about Strider as the best pitcher to ever come out of Clemson.
oh yeah. I mean, just thinking about how quick they are throwing names of it. Doug Kingsmore. I mean, how long until his name's in the outfield next to Chris Vincent, Khalil Green, Jack Lake, all the other greats that have their name out there. I mean, I think it really could be sooner rather than later that he has his name on that. Oh,
Wouldn't that be interesting to think? That's an interesting point, because he his career at Clemson was kind of cut short due to COVID injury,
mm-hmm.
so we didn't get to see a lot of him. So he didn't really do a whole lot at Clemson. Does that hurt him in that regard? Because he didn't do he didn't put up dominant numbers while he was there. He didn't start doing that till he got to Major League Baseball. So that's something to consider. How much do they lean towards what he did at Clemson and what he's doing at the Major League level? Depends on how they look at that.
I mean, all you have to do is look at Clemson's social media accounts, and they love every time he is on the ground and throwing strikes and striking people out. They're the first ones to throw up some stat. Hey, he's a Clemson guy. Don't forget about him. And so, if they're that quick to do it now, I mean, I don't see why they would.
Yeah, they are very quick to remind you where he went to school.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Here is something that came out today that really makes you and I and our fellow Clemson Tiger personality Ryan look a little foolish. Because Drake May was named the ACC preseason player of the year over our guy who we raised on yesterday, who we praised up and down all show yesterday. This surprised me. I mean, Drake May, he had a good season last year, and no one is taking that away from him. I think though that the entirety of the media got this wrong.
Yeah, this is one that surprised me a little bit too. I told you yesterday. This is I spent about an hour to doing this voting.
Yeah, you were looking at the offensive line stats.
I put a lot of time into it, and the quarterback was one I didn't dwell on very long. I love Drake May, man. I think he is an elite level quarterback. He kind of put up video game like numbers last year.
Yeah, he was in the Heisman conversation. Yeah. Really, I mean, until the ACC championship, he was a guy that everyone thought could take home the Heisman Trophy.
I mean, I guess you can make the argument that maybe he's that guy. But I don't know. In my mind, to me, I thought it was a no-brainer, Jordan Travis. And, it was close. I think the voting came out 88-66 or something like that. So, I mean, it wasn't like May won it in a landslide. Travis got a lot of votes, but that is one that definitely surprised me yesterday. I thought Travis would get a lot more love the way Florida State's gotten so much preseason love.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to wonder if the love for FSU is kind of coming down a little bit. Simply the closer you get to football season and the more time there is for people to really think about this stuff, you think that the love for FSU is ticking a little bit down?
The off season to me has kind of become, we like to call it talking season, and to me it's kind of become or evolved into who can have the hottest take. It's all about the hot takes, bold takes, whatever you want to call them. And when the season ended last year, claiming Florida State was back and all that was kind of a hot take. Further we got into the off season, everybody jumped on that bandwagon. But you look at how this voting in the preseason poll by the ACC media members, panned out. It's obvious that when it comes time to put your name to something, there's not as many people buying into this Florida State is back hype just yet as it's been made out to be over the past few months. I was kind of interested to see how that thing was going to play out. And I was a little, when I saw the results and Clemson was voted in first place, I was like, so people are still, putting some logical thought into this thing, man, because I thought that's the way it should have been.
Yeah, I think, like we touched on yesterday, that until Clemson is knocked off from the top, you have to keep them in the first spot. So, Clemson continues just to, get the love from the ACC, preseason media. At 7 Tigers are on the ALL-ACC preseason team. This was a little shocking to me. Not the guys that made it, but the fact that Shipley not only was named the ACC ALL-ACC running back, he was named the all-purpose back and specialist. So,
and Shipley finished third in preseason player of the year too.
Yeah. And so, the love for him is really, really going high. Shipley, I think, and this is going to sound kind of sacrilegious for a lot of Tiger fans. I mean, you think about everything that he brings to this team and to the offense. I think he could go down as the greatest running back in Clemson history. I mean, you're thinking about a guy who has, amassed 1,100 rushing yards, 200 receiving yards, 300 return yards last season. He was the only person in the nation to do that, and it was something that few. Let me see here. I have the list. So Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush, C.J. Spiller, Amir Abdullah, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, and Saquon Barkley are the only conference players to hit those figures in the last 20 seasons. So
That's an impressive list to be a part of. Those are some big time players. We all know those guys, and now Shipley's on a list with all those guys. I think when you start talking about the greatest running backs in Clemson history, I think most people probably look at Travis Etienne. I mean, he did so much for this program while he was here. Can Shipley surpass what Etienne did in the fans' eyes? I don't know. I think he's definitely got the potential to do that. I think what hurts him though is having a guy like Phil Moffitt and having to split the carries, because I think Moffitt is going to get more of a share. I think Moffitt's going to see more carries this year than he did last year. He's going to have more opportunities, which obviously takes away from some of Shipley's opportunities. But at the same time, a guy as versatile as Shipley is, you can move him out wide. You can use him in the passing game out of the backfield. There's a lot of different things you can do with him. You can put them both on the field at the same time in two-back sets at times. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get Shipley involved besides just, handing him the ball. That's interesting. A lot of that might also depend on whether he decides to stay at Clemson for a fourth year or leave after this year. That's another interesting point because I think he's got the potential to make the argument for himself.
Oh yeah. I mean, just looking at his stats, they don't really jump high at you like Travis Etienne's did. However, look at the players that Travis Etienne had around him in the weapons. I mean, just go back to having guys like Justin Ross, T. Higgins, I mean, all those guys that can help stretch defenses and open up running lanes. That really, you can't overlook that stuff. So I think that Shipley, with what he has had to work with in this offense, this is going to be his third offensive coordinator since he's been here. I mean, that is not easy stuff to overcome. Now, the fact is, he can make himself a lot of money this year. I think if he comes out and shows that he can, be that threat to split out high, like a Christian McCaffrey, then there is going to be a lot of people, knocking on his door saying, hey, why don't you call it a season?
Yeah, Shipley is in his first two seasons averaging about 5.5 yards per carry. And behind an offensive line that has not been as good as what Etienne had to run behind for most of his career, a lot of Shipley's yards come after contact. There's a lot of things to consider here. But he's definitely got the potential to make to make an argument for himself. Again, though, it's going to be interesting to see how they divvy up the carries this year, because I think you got to get Moffitt more involved. But with bringing in a guy like Garrett Riley, they're going to use him in as many ways as they possibly can, because he's one of your best players on the offensive side of the ball, if not your best player. I mean, he just might be your best skill guy, and you need him on the field as much as possible.
Yeah, I think, that Garrett Riley excited a lot of Tiger fans this offseason when he said that he is not opposed to, having Rafa and Shipley on the field at the same time. Because let's be honest, right now, Garrett Riley doesn't know what he has at wide receiver. Those guys are hurt in the spring. He had, Daniel high school receivers out there, for the majority of the string. And so, for me, Shipley and Roth are two guys that he knows what he's getting in there. And so if he can alleviate some of the pressure off of Cade Klubnik and make his job a little easier, I think that he is going to do that. And I think you're going to see, Phil Alpha and Shipley in the backfield at the same time. I mean, could you imagine the stress of that will put on a defense if you can have a guy like Shipley who can stretch you sideline to sideline, who can also, hit you at the gut for yards, and then you got a just tanking Phil Alpha who is going to, bruise you and get those nasty yards. I mean, that honestly is a offensive coordinator's wet dream.
Yeah. We hear the term air raid thrown around a lot when you're talking about Garrett Riley. But if you listen to some of these coaches, including Garrett Riley, talk, that he calls it more of a dirt raid. He wants to lean on that running game. This is actually what I was fixing to touch on right here. The fact that you might have more of a downfield passing attack is going to open up more running lanes for these guys. The past 2 years, defenses have been able to key on Clemson's running game, daring them to throw the ball because they were not scared of Clemson consistently beating them down the field.
Yeah, because they couldn't.
Look at the South Carolina game.
Yeah.
That is the prime example. They were daring Clemson to throw the ball. Hey, man, we're just gonna load up in the box. We dare you to throw it. Clemson still couldn't complete a forward pass, and they were giving it to them. So you get more of a downfield because you start pushing the ball down the field the way we've seen Clemson do it before the past 2 years, like they did in the past. That's going to open up more in this running game. That's going to lead to more success for Shipley and Moffa both.
Yeah, I mean, you excuse me, you can't overlook the fact that guys like Travis Etienne and the guys that came, kind of before him, if you're looking at Andre Ellington and
Gallman.
Yeah, Gallman and C.J. Davison, all those guys, they had the benefit of an offense that could stretch you vertically, horizontally, and then that made the job of the running backs that much easier. Because when you can get a defense going side to side and forward to back, you have them on their heels. Then that makes the job, your running back that much easier. The first game of the shit, yeah, absolutely. And we have touched on this, from our last live show to yesterday's show. I said that this Duke game is not a game that you want to think, hey, it's going to, be a cakewalk and the Tigers are going to go in there and win by 50. If that happens, that's great. I mean, I would err and lean more toward the side of it's going to be a closer than the experts think kind of game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. This is not your typical Duke team. We touched on it yesterday. Those guys returned 17 starters from a team that won 9 games last year. Mike Elko's a hell of a football coach.
Yes, he is.
It is amazing what he did in year one there. Not many people can go coach at Duke and win 9 games in their first year. That is a very good quarterback he's got there in Riley Leonard.
Yeah, he's a confidence sucker too, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's confident. And I asked Mike Elko at the ACC kickoff, how challenging it was going to be, kind of playing for Clemson, new coordinator, kind of a new quarterback, only 2 starts, not a whole bunch of film on these guys. And, that's going to make it a little bit tougher on them game planning. But I'm one that tends to think, it's not a given that this offense is going to just come out game one firing on all cylinders. It might take 2-3 weeks for this thing to really gel and really start rolling. Now, I'm not saying Clemson's going to go lose at Duke. I'm just saying I'm not expecting them to go score 50 points in the season opener and Cade Klubnik to throw for 400 yards and Clemson rush for 250 and just light up the scoreboard. It doesn't always work out that way with a new coordinator coming in, especially when you had the kind of injuries Clemson had in the spring. And it wasn't just at wide receiver. They were missing some offensive linemen. They were having to rep a bunch of guys that are not going to, start in that season opener.
Well, I mean, shoot, Shipley was kind of dinged up a little bit this spring.
He didn't even play in the spring game, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, the thing is, this Tiger team, if you're thinking about, the Duke game, you can't get overly excited if they do score a lot of points, and you can't get overly frustrated if they don't. This is the game on of a new coordinator, a new system. There's going to be hiccups and communication and signaling things in. Look, the guys have ran some form of a hodgepodge of an offense that started with Chad Morris and then moved Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, then Tony Elliott and Streeter. I mean, so there is going to be some unlearning that has to happen. And to think that they're going just to kind of game on, and play flawless and there not be any issues with communication or lining up or motions or formations, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very good Duke team again. I think they're going to finish, top 4 and 4 or 5 in the ACC. I don't think it's a cakewalk, even without a first-year offensive coordinator. It's a solid Duke team, man. You're probably not going to go in there and beat those guys by 4 touchdowns. This is not Duke from 3 years ago, or the last time Clemson played them, or your typical Duke team. Let's put it that way. This is going to be a competitive game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Clemson still goes in there and wins, and it's not by a field goal at the last minute or anything. Clemson's got more talent. I just don't think it's going to be as easy as, some fans seem to think it's going to be. You see Duke, you expect Clemson to roll. I just, season opener, first game, new coordinator, fairly new quarterback, receivers that didn't work out all spring. There's bound to be, like you said, a learning curve for some of these guys. You only get 15 practices in the fall. So there's a lot. It's going to be a lot for some of these guys to learn in a short amount of time.
Yes, it is. And, kind of circling back to Shipley here, the Heisman odds have come out, over the last few weeks. He is not very high on a lot of people's Heisman lists, even though the list I read earlier of all those other players, a lot of them are Heisman Trophy winners or guys that were invited to the ceremony. If he has another season like he did last year, and actually you can say it improves by, say, 10% at each of those numbers, is he Clemson's best shot at the Heisman? I'll let you go first, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
I'm going to say no. Running backs just don't get much love in the Heisman these days. If Clemson's got a Heisman contender on this team this year, it's probably Cade Klubman, and he's going to have a special kind of season. I would probably lean more towards 2024 as him, having a better shot at a Heisman. But, running backs just don't get a lot of love in the Heisman these days. It's more of a popularity contest. Although Shipley is a guy that, he's got that kind of magnetic personality, that kind of, how can I say this? He's kind of got that dynamic personality that would, attract media attention, that the media would like him, man, because he's that kind of guy. You see he takes some of his NIL money and donates it to the Children's Hospital. He's the kind of guy you like, that you're going to pull for. But I don't know. It's hard for running backs to win the Heisman these days. You got to have monster seasons.
Yeah, here is why you're wrong, and Cade Klubman will never win the Heisman. All right. Or really, I guess any QB at Clemson is because the head coach. Dow is not going to let his quarterback sit out there in the fourth quarter of the game where they're up 35 points and chuck the ball around the field. And
You mean like Lamar did in 2016?
Maybe just a little bit. But, that, and look, there is nothing that I love more than to see a QB from Clemson get the Heisman. If Trevor Lawrence didn't get it, and Dow had the guy that could have taken home Clemson's first Heisman in Trevor Lawrence. All he had to do in that 2019, I guess, season, was it?
18.
Yeah.
Freshman season?
No, I was thinking, yeah, the 19 season leading the LSU game. Was just let him stay on the field and throw the ball to T. Higgins and, those guys. I mean, they were pounding everyone that year. That, though, is the reason that QB will not win from Clemson.
I didn't say he was going to win it. I just said best shot to win. It's going to be hard for a quarterback to win the Heisman at Clemson for that very reason. Dabo's not going to run the scorable people. You're not going to see him doing what Louisville did in 2016, upset 60-something to 7 on somebody and throwing touchdown passes with his starting quarterback. He's not going to do it. It's just not who he is.
I will never forget watching Lamar Jackson against Wake Forest in that same season. I think that's the game that you're referencing.
It might be. They beat somebody 70-something to 7 or something like that, and the last touchdown, Lamar, it was a passing touchdown. It might have been Wake Forest.
Yeah, I think that the reason that Shipley is the best chance is because running backs can get their yards in chunks. He can come into a game, finish a game at halftime, with 150 yards or something like that, and call it a day, and I guess the voting media are not going to knock him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another thing that again, going back to splitting carries with Moffa, that's something that hurts you a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how they divvy those carries up, because I think you need both of those guys, man. Because I think Moffa could go to a lot of could have left Clemson and be the starter at a lot of other schools this year. He's that talented. There's a lot to like about him. He is a very well-rounded running back. He's got great field vision. Clemson's going to have a dynamic running game this year, and it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold to see, exactly how they use those two guys.
Exactly. If I was filling off her real Shipley, I get a hat exactly like I have and give it to Gary Riley and say, just run the damn ball. I mean,
it's definitely the strength of this team as we begin the season. The running back room is definitely one of the strengths.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Dominique Thomas. I mean, thunder thighs. I mean, calves of steel. I mean, the lower body on this guy is like, he is like a god.
And you don't realize exactly how, you can see pictures of him online. If you get up close to him in person, you do a double take. Like, damn. I mean, it's impressive. And I think Dominique Thomas is a guy we're going to see more of this year. I think he's still going to be that third guy behind Shipley and Maffa. And when it's time to chew up, if you're up big in a game, he's going to be the guy they turn to. He's going to be a guy that gets some carries even when, the game's still on the line. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's going to get a lot more work this year. Yeah, you're right there. He doesn't get talked about a lot. As Shipley and Maffa get all the hype, as not unusual, but there's a lot to like about Thompson. He's got he's a big, strong guy. He can run between the tackles, man, and get you some yards.
Yes, he can. So, I mean, this comment right here, I think is exactly what, we would anticipate happening. I mean, obviously, the Tigers have to get something going in the passing game before that huge game against FSU. Do you see them really stretching the field that much or showing that much against Duke? I guess this is the issue if you try to open up your passing game against Southern FAU. Those are two teams that you shouldn't have to do that. Those are two teams that you should line up in the I formation if you want. Run the ball down their throat and take care of the game. The issue is FSU is not going to have a lot of film on Clemson. You had the spring game, which was extremely vanilla, and honestly, it was one of the most boring games I have ever attended. So you run the risk then of showing everything to arguably your biggest challenger in the ACC against two teams that you don't have to. I'm not sure I am buying this.
You go into that opener, you got to do what you have to win. You get into that thing and things are going well and you build a lead. Maybe you go conservative and don't show a lot. If it's competitive for a while, and you might have to open it up a little bit more. It might just depend on the flow of the game and how things go. I tend to think they'll probably lean heavy on that running game in that season opener and see if that can open up some things in the passing attack. But you don't hold. It's an ACC game on the road. You can't hold back to the point that it costs you a win, if that makes any sense. You get into those next two games, and if the offense still hasn't gelled, you use those games to do that. I don't think you open it up and show a whole heck of a lot. You don't have to work on communication and some of the other things. A lot of that just takes reps. You don't necessarily have to open it up and show everything. You definitely don't want to do that against Charleston Southern and who is it, Florida Atlantic maybe. But I could see them having to open it up a little bit against Duke because I don't think that's going to be the – again, I've said it a few times now. I don't think that's going to be the cakewalk some think it is. I think it's going to be competitive at least for a little while. You're going to have to open it up a little bit.
To answer John Brown's question, yes, it concerns me a hell of a lot. I mean, you lose a guy like, Power, who was, automatic except for the Orange Bowl, and now you're relying on guys that honestly haven't kicked except, in the game was out of line. Yeah, it concerns me a lot. In fact, I heard rumors that Dabo is actually out at the Clemson Vilo, looking for his next Greg Hill kicking a can.
The special teams is absolutely a question mark. Coming out of the spring, it looked like Liam Boyd might be going to win that, or at least
I think he was going to.
On Robert Gunn coming out of the spring, he would have been, at the top of the depth chart. He transfers out somewhere else so he could get a scholarship. He wasn't going to have an opportunity at that at Clemson this year.
Hang on. Let's hold that just a second, all right? So did he transfer out a little too early? Because now there is the option of him having a scholarship.
Maybe he did, but no way to know that back then. I mean, I get it why he did it. I understand it totally. You got to do what's best for you. And Robert Gunn is talented. He has a big leg. He can kick the ball far. There's plenty of videos out there on Twitter that document how far he can kick it. Does he have the consistency needed, to be your every game kicker? I don't know. I go back to Catman, Chandler Catanzaro. Mm-hmm. He ended up being a great kicker at Clemson, but his first year he was not very consistent. He was up and down. That was his freshman season, if I'm remembering right. And Gunn did have the benefit of redshirting last year, and he was also coming off an ACL injury. I don't think it's just at place kicker, though. I think you got a little bit of a concern at punter, too, because, Aiden Swanson was good at times last year, but he was up and down, too. Clemson's got Jack Smith, who redshirted last year, and another guy with a big leg. I think he's about 6'5", 240 pounds, big punter, big guy. You go into that facility, while they're practicing it, and he's just booming them off of the top of the roof in there. Same thing with him, though. They talked about it. The coaches talked about it a little bit with him last year. He just wasn't consistent enough yet to win the job. A year now in the system, has he developed enough consistency to make it a competition this fall? I think that is a question that remains unanswered. I do think there is a walk-on that Mike can challenge, and I can't remember his name, but that Mike can challenge Robert Gunn for that place kicking job. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see how it shakes out, but it's definitely, it is definitely something. It's a red flag. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And, going back to the punter, when is the last time Clemson had, just that guy, who you knew could flip the field on opposing teams, who could, turn, the field position game around? I mean, it seems like every team Clemson plays, their punter is like a Ray Guy finalist, and Clemson can't get a guy that can kick the ball consistently 45 yards. I mean,
punting's definitely not been a strong suit for Clemson over the years. That's for sure. Again, I do think Jack Smith's a talented kicker, man. Mm-hmm. I think he's just got to find that consistency that you need from those guys. I'm not a big kicking expert, but you hear them, talk about it's more mental than anything. We'll see how it plays out, but Clemson's definitely, punting has not been a strong suit for Clemson over the years. That's for sure. Maybe Bradley Pinion had a good year, a couple good years. Outside of that, then you don't have that big punter like you see some other teams have. And it is weird. It seems like every week, whoever Clemson's playing, that guy turns into the guy that can, punt the ball 65 yards.
Yeah, it's like great guy incarnate, every single time I remember seeing the press box, you like, this team runs out like a 5 foot, 3-inch, 135-pound guy who that night, just, kicks the ball 65, 70 yards. And you're like, what the hell? Like, how can they have these guys and Clemson can't get a guy that can kick the ball straight?
And Clemson keeps scholarships for punters and kickers. Yeah. They don't just take walk-ons, they go out. It's just definitely interesting.
Yes, it is. I think that we are going to see Clemson show out this year with some confidence heading into late season play, and just maybe can be the team that no one wants to play late in the year. I think that that this is something that hasn't been hit on a lot, is the confidence. I think last year, you saw this Clemson team, with DJ on the leg. I mean, they didn't have that killer instinct. They didn't have that Deshaun Watson, hey, let's go be famous, let's, I mean, there is no leadership on that team. There is no killer instinct. And I think, you saw that against South Carolina when the string started to unravel there. There is no one that you were looking at on the sideline and like, hey, this guy's bringing the team together. He's getting on asses. He's firing this team up. I think you saw that though in Cade Clay. You saw that guy every single time he came in the game. It was like, the offense just looked like they had more energy. The defense had something about him. So, that confidence is king, I feel.
I think the further we got into last season, the less confidence that team had in that offense. I don't think there's any doubting that. You can see it in body language. And I was a guy that kind of kept waiting on DJ Uyunglele to kind of flip that switch, man, maybe get mad and show some fire, show some emotion. And I remember standing on the field when they were playing Syracuse last year, and when his hand got stomped on, and nothing, no emotion really, no fire, and all that. If that doesn't draw it out, nothing's going to. That's not Cade Klubnik. He's the polar opposite. That guy's as fiery as they come.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him going up and down that sideline, grabbing dudes by the face mask and, getting in people's faces.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. It fires up the team. It fires up the coaching staff. It fires up the fans. I mean, you want to see a guy that cares. DJ, he looks like he had checked out, after. And so, when your leader does that, then of course you're not going to have a lot of confidence.
I remember back in the spring last year, the first few, those viewing sessions we had, our laid eyes on Klubnik for the first time. I remember calling him a ball of energy because he was balls to the wall, wide open in everything he did. He's sprinting from one drill to the next. He's not jogging. He's sprinting. He's just wide open all the time. I think that kind of mentality is infectious. And I think it resonates within the whole offense. And I'm of the opinion that's not all the time, but sometimes or a lot of the times, an offense can take on the personality of its quarterback. And if your quarterback's just laid back, not very emotional, not fiery at all guy, you might not see a whole lot of fire from your offense. And that's kind of what we've seen the past 2 seasons in Clemson. Not a lot of emotion, not a lot of fire. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And that leads to confidence, going back to, this comment here. It's infectious. And I think Klubnik brings that to the table. Guy's just a winner.
Yeah, I mean, that is the way that everyone has said that Klubnik, he just knows how to win. Gary Riley said, there are some times that he can see, where he is going to have to kind of calm him down a little bit, and kind of, temper a little bit of his excitement. The thing is, I don't think that Gary Riley wants to stomp it out. He wants to keep that fire in Klubnik. Because look, you saw it in the ACC championship game. When he came in that game, there was no doubt in your mind that he was going to take over that game and that he was going to lead the Tigers to a win. Now, if that had been DJU's game the whole time, I think you're sitting here looking at a completely different outcome.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to extinguish that fire. You just don't want, the only thing about that is you don't want your quarterback being overly emotional and it lead to playing out of control. But I don't see that being a problem with this kid. Again, he's played at the highest level in high school. He's played under the bright lights. I know it's not Power 5 football, but high school, it doesn't get any bigger than where he's from there in Texas. Arguably one of the toughest high school leagues in the country where he came from. So he's kind of been through the fire, multiple state titles. He knows where the line is and to not cross it. I think I think you're in good hands here with this kid.
Yeah, and let's not forget that he gets some of a bad rap for the Orangeville with hardly any receivers, with a awful offense. I mean, he still threw for over 400 yards in that game.
So, I think for me with the Orange Bowl, he gets no slack from me for that. I think a lot of that was just downright inexperience, man. A lot of this is going to come with more experience and more reps. He's going to learn.
Yeah. Rock 75 gets into the question, what is a value player that keeps him from balling out in practice and not on game day? I think that, there aren't a lot that do that. I think, who you are in practice is who you are on game day. DJU, he was as laid back and, nonchalant and just kind of, that California kid, just kind of there, in practice, and he was the same on game day. I think Klubnik is the exact same in practice as he is on game day. Shipley, same in practice as he is on game day. I mean, do you agree or?
Yeah, I tend to agree. We don't get to see a lot of practice, so we don't know who's really balling out at practice and who's not. The little bit that they let us in to watch, we don't get to see much.
No, we get to see them stretch, do a little special teams.
We might see them get to work on some tempo, but that's about it.
Mhm.
So we don't really know who's balling out in practice and who's not. Only thing we know is what the coaches tell us, really. And I think a lot of times what coaches say to the media about individual players, they are saying things to use as motivation at times. I mean, they are saying things that they calculated things, that they have a reason for saying. I think they're trying to, again, motivate some of these guys at times. Not always. I'm just saying in some cases they're trying to motivate this guy or that guy. You build him up. Some guys need to be built up. Some guys maybe don't need to, you coach them a little bit differently. I tend to agree. I think who you are in practice is who you are on game days. I'm not saying nerves never plays a factor. I'm sure it does with some of the younger guys that have not played much. It's a big difference going in front of playing 1,000 people to 80,000 people, national television. Big difference, but you get hit once or twice and the nerves are gone. I think who you are in practice for the most part is who you are on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, and John Brown, this is exactly right. I mean, look at your Joe Montanas, Drew Brees, your Dan Marinos, just go down the list. These are guys that, they had the confidence of their team, they had the belief of their team, and they, were vocal and they had to be. And look at them now. I mean, rarely do you see an elite quarterback who is not a leader on their team.
I tend to agree with that too. The fiery guys tend to work out to be the better leaders, man. There are cases where we see quarterbacks be more of that lead by example type guy, but I think for the most part, it's those guys that aren't afraid to get in your face and tell you when you messed up, and that's the kind of leader I like to see in a quarterback.
Yeah, and it's not only those kind of leaders; it's the leaders of men, like John said. Just think, about Trevor Lawrence and the stuff that he and Darian Ranger did. The protests and the Black Lives Matter and then the whole the fact that honestly there probably would not have been a 2020 season had it not been for them starting the whole they want to play movement. So it takes a special kind of guy to be a quarterback and to lead. And I think the Tigers have it this year.
Yeah, I think they do too. I think leadership is something that's been missing on that side of the ball in the past couple of years. You've had it on the defensive side, not so much on the offensive side. And when you don't have that leadership, at some point it's going to start showing on the field. There's you can't avoid it.
Yes, it is. Last comment for today's show comes to you from Miranda tonight. She thinks Adam Randall is going to be a breakout player on offense. I tend to agree. If he can stay healthy, he is a electric guy. He can stretch the field. He can make all the catches. Jason, you got to see him firsthand in high school. You raised about him, entering last year. And had he not, gone down with an injury, I think he and Antonio Williams could have been something special.
Adam Randall has that alpha potential. You know, he's got he's that guy that can be the alpha of that group. He's got that kind of talent. He is a monster. You know, I've watched him kind of through the years there at Myrtle Beach before he got to Clemson. People are kind of sleeping on this kid since he didn't play last year. I don't know if some have just forgotten that he's there or just assume he's going to stay hurt all the time. If you're sleeping on this kid, I think you're making a mistake because I think he's going to be special.
Yes, you are. And another thing that you'll be sleeping on is another episode of All Clemson Tigers Radio tomorrow, 2 p.m. Jason and I will be back talking all things Tiger. Get ready for the start of camp. Football is back on Friday. I couldn't be more excited.
Me neither. It's time. I'm ready to get back up to Clemson, man. It's been a little bit now.
Yeah, your wife told me that she's ready for you to get you out of the house. For Jason, I'm Zach. Thank you so much for listening and watching the show. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe and like button. We'll see you tomorrow.